care to yourself. And all of these girls were just on board with it. You know, they were like, of course they are, because it makes sense and you feel better and you feel healthier and you're like, you know, representing something that is separate from the regular world of toxicity and negligence to one's own well-being.
Okay. You mentioned that during your, I've used kind of December of 2020 as like a date just because of the incident that we're here for, but
yeah, we'll get there.
How long did you spend time with the group even beyond that date?
Oh gosh, I'm still friends with Z now. I was in Shayla's parents' house for a month in March of earlier this year. Like,
okay, so for the last 4 years, you've maintained constant communication and contact and friendship with them? Okay.
Most definitely, and we've all been very hurt by this, and we've, you know, worked through this together and as the best we can.
All right.
You know.
So you mentioned that they didn't consume any drugs or alcohol. Are you referring to sort of illicit drugs or just all drugs? What do you mean by the term drugs?
Anything that is psychotropic in nature.
Okay.
Anything that's like no pharmaceuticals, no alcohol, no drugs of any kind.
Okay.
What do you mean? What drugs are there?
I guess what I'm going to get into is sort of like modern medicine or treatment of ailments or like healing practices. Like, did they have sort of didn't adopt the traditional worldview of like the exercise of medicine?
Yeah, none of these girls really had very many ailments.
Okay.
So, you know, I know, but you mean like ibuprofen?
Sure.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah. I prescribe to these systems myself. Like, I don't take those kinds of drugs either.
All right. And was the whole group sort of like-minded in that way?
They're all for it, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So were there sort of healing practices or things that you all did for your bodies that were not traditional?
I mean, like what?
Like drinking your own urine?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been drinking my urine daily for 4 years.
Okay. And can you tell me, like, obviously that's not traditional in a broad
Well, it was in the past when people understood their bodies.
Okay.
Now we've become so deranged and deluded and essentially live in a psychotic society of mental illness and addiction to pharmaceuticals and alcohol and toxic food that we have become so diluted and separate from what it means to be healthy on the deepest and most fundamental cellular levels that we would, you know, describe an attempt to achieve homeostasis in the body. Yeah, so urine therapy is non-traditional in today's modern terms of, you know, our deranged society, toxic society, but it's actually written about by medical doctors. It's written about by people all over the world. There's like, I mean, if you go online and look up urine therapy, there's like 15 books available written by allopathic medicine doctors, homeopathic medicine doctors, written by shamans and gurus from the East, written about by regular everyday people who have healed themselves, who claim to have healed themselves of things such as cancer by drinking their urine.
Okay.
And it tells all about, if you want to do your research, you know, urine is from the word Urine, meaning light. And basically it's like when you go to an oncologist and they take a urine sample instead of a blood sample, that's because the urine is more telling of the malfunctions in your body. And so allopathic, homeopathic, and people from all types of different natures write about, you know, the photonic realignment of your DNA through urine therapy. So urine has like discarded nutrients in it, but those nutrients have passed through your kidney and bladder and are now contained within urine, the light production of your body. And it needs to be understood, and this is just like very common programming in the world, that urine is waste, and it's literally an antiseptic. It's the opposite of waste. Your stool is your waste. Your urine is an antiseptic. It's a true sterilant, and it's antibacterial. That's why Boy Scouts 101, when you have an injury or you have a snake bite or a jellyfish sting or something like that, and you use your urine to sterilize and to act as an antiseptic and act as an antibacterial immediately on open wounds in the flesh. So you could think about this as like the same type of thing is happening inside of your body. We're talking about like antibacterial, you know.
How long have you been engaging in that practice as like a, do you consider it a healing practice or like a health routine?
Well, to me, it was a healing practice at first. And I would say that the first year, it took me probably like 6 months to a year. But actually, I would say maybe a little less than that. I think for some individuals, they would probably, you know, that would be a healing practice for at least a year. But I was considerably healthier and more fit than the average individual.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been filtering my water, all the fluoride and chlorine out of my water for like 20 years since I was in high school.
Okay.
You know, like I started these practices very young. I just realized that, you know, it's like, would you like to have toxic waste and heavy metals in your water, or should we filter these out? You know, I mean, it doesn't really take a genius to figure this out. Like, we should be taking these steps to heal ourselves and and not only heal ourselves, but as a health practice. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, like, for the average individual, I think their first year of urine therapy would be more of like a healing, but I use it to maintain my body still to this day.
And did you start urine therapy practice before you met Z?
No, actually, but I didn't learn about it from Z. I learned about it from Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started drinking my urine, and after about a month, I was Z never even mentioned that.
Okay.
But after I had been drinking my urine for about a month or something, I was like mentioning it to Z, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "Yeah, we do that too."
Okay.
You know, so I actually know a couple dozen individuals who drink their urine regularly.
A couple dozen? Okay.
Yeah, sure do.
And as far as Z and Kuwani and Shalig and Gami, did they all participate in urine therapy also?
As far as I know.
Okay. Did you ever know of anybody be forced to participate in that practice?
No, I didn't, actually. All the individuals that I've met, or it's kind of like one of those things that's like, oh, I didn't even know about that. You know, like I didn't know until Peggy told me. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing my research online, and it turns out there's a lot more people that do it than, like, there's this guy who I really respect online. His name's Troy Casey. He's the certified health nut. He's like an influencer on Instagram. And so he and like several other individuals, they really promote like urine therapy. They do it all the time.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, it's a little more mainstream than, you know, you would think. And unless you know about it, and then you hear about it, and it's like, oh, this is a lot more mainstream than I thought.
Mm-hmm. You already kind of just spoke about the sort of group's collective views on medicine, or traditional medicine.
Sure.
Were there any other types of healing practices to either like center themselves or strengthen their mind or their body that you were aware of?
Gosh, I mean, I personally use all kinds of, like, I use Rife machines. I've watched people have miraculous healings from Rife machines.
And what is that?
A Rife machine is a frequency generator developed by Royal Raymond Rife in the early 1930s at the University of San Diego, Southern California. And this man found that, and you can do your research on this, anybody who's interested, this man found that when exposed to that everything has a frequency and vibration, because that's the nature of reality. It's just an atomic structure. And so to understand the fundamentals of science, which we're all taught in school, but it just doesn't seem to sink in to a lot of people, you know, that everything that we're experiencing right now, the air is mostly nitrogen and the matter is it's mostly carbon. So we have a atomic pixelated holograph reality, and these things have been written about from, you know, the 1927 Solvay Convention in physics and beyond, even to Michael Talbot and Carl Sagan, who write about the nature of reality. And so everything has a frequency and vibration, including illnesses inside of the body. And so this man, Royal Raymond Rife, was able to find that these illnesses, specifically tumors and things like MS and certain other illnesses, have a certain vibrational frequency, and when exposed to certain frequencies, now we're talking about particles and waves, which is, you know, another foundational cornerstone of science, of the understanding of science, quantum physics, and reality. When you have the particulate matter of a tumor inside of your body, it may be exposed to the wavelengths of certain frequency vibrations, and it destroys tumors. I've watched some pretty miraculous healings. People being on their deathbed to walking around cancer-free.
Were those things that?
No, that's just me.
Okay.
You know, I'm just introducing this to the world here right now.
Let me ask you about, and I mean, I've got to just keep
but
it.
Z knows about frequency. Z knows about Rife machines too.
Okay.
You know, so I'm just curious, like, which ones?
Let me ask a more direct question.
Yeah, please.
Are you aware of them using any type of sensory deprivation or dark therapy?
Dark therapy, yeah, from the teachings of Montauk Chia.
Okay. Can you tell me about that?
Okay, so I did dark therapy in September of 2020. I actually did it after I left Connecticut. I had like a small bungalow style house, and so I taped off the bedroom and the bathroom, and I blacked out all the windows, and I retreated into into a meditative place for 432 hours.
Okay. And was meditation or sensory deprivation or dark therapy, was that something that Z and the three women also subscribed to and participated in?
Z did dark therapy like 10 years ago.
Okay.
You know, he did dark therapy, but at the time when I met them, none of the women had done dark therapy.
Okay.
Gamliana was the first one to do it, and she did it for 2 weeks at my house in November of 2020.
Okay.
She was the only one to have done that at that point.
What brought about her doing that? Did she want to do that, or was she made to do that?
No, definitely not.
Okay,
so Z never made them do anything like that. I mean, it's like they volunteered because they're interested in the same type of achievement. I know Shayla did the dark therapy for a very long time.
Okay.
She went into the dark for like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's will speak highly of it, but she was seeking that. She was seeking. I mean, Z didn't say go be in the dark. It's like that's not the thing.
And in practice of dark therapy or sensory deprivation, do you come out of it whenever you feel ready, or is it something that like you're locked in even if you don't want to do it?
No. What you're asking is like a personal question about the individual who's embarking on their quest for enlightenment. So you're asking me to, speak to the nature of another individual's personal. I set a time. I was like, I'm going in for 432 hours, and when that time was up, I came out.
Okay. And from your observations of the rest of the group, was that personal to them? Did they make choices about whether they wanted to do it and how long they wanted to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
But it's also, it's like, as I was raised in my household, and I know that this culture and society in the modern world has deviated a long way from traditional practice, but my father is the head of my house growing up, not my mother.
Okay.
We lived in a house where my dad set a standard, and that's what we lived by, and my mom was a wife, her dad, it's a patriarchal household. So and my mom was never oppressed, just like these girls were never oppressed.
So you subscribed in that way to more traditional gender roles?
Yeah, more traditional gender roles where the man is the head of the household.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
And Z is the head of his house.
Is that biblically based or what?
No, it's psychologically sound.
Okay.
It's like, men are better leaders. They're better decision makers. They can regulate their emotions in a way that women cannot. And they're just, they're better leaders.
Did you ever see that manifest itself in the mistreatment of?
Absolutely not.
Shayla, Gami?
I've already told you how sweet and kind he was to these women. But also at the same time, he sets a standard. If they wanted to go do drugs and alcohol, then leave. That was the thing. It's like they all lived this life with him by choice. This was not, you have to live. It's like, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to live your life, and this is the way that I live my life now, and every woman that I've had in my life in my entire life has been this way, and the way that I live my life right now. When I'm free again, which shouldn't be too long, I will be, and any women that come into my life now will live the way that I live. We will be clean vegans. We will not use drugs and alcohol in any way. You will be treated with care and respect and love and kindness and listened to. I will appreciate and respect your feelings, just as Z was doing with his wives, just as I've always done with the women in my life.
And
but when it comes to crucial decision making and setting the standard for the household, I am the head of the household.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
And you said, if any of these women wanted to use drugs or alcohol, they could leave.
They could leave at any time.
Did you ever have any perception that they were not free to leave?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. I want to talk to you about, now you said that you spent about 3 weeks in Virginia in October of 2020, and that was with Gami's parents?
October of 2020. No, we stayed in an Airbnb in
an
Virginia
Airbnb
Beach.
in Virginia?
That's
Okay.
right.
What was the reason for that location?
Oh, that's where Gami's from.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a beautiful area.
Okay.
So.
And then after October of 2020, when you spent 3 weeks with them there, what time did you spend with them after October?
Gosh, we were together pretty much all the time from
Okay.
that point on.
How did you all spend your days? Did you all work, or like what was the dynamic?
I worked some, at that time. I have a background in personal fitness training,
Okay.
yoga instruction, private yoga instruction, and I'm not a certified nutritionist, but I offer my opinion on nutrition and health, and I work privately in these areas, and like I say, all of my financial partakings and everything is private through my trust.
Okay.
So.
And what about Z and the three women? How would you all spend your day to day? Like, what would you do during the day?
Gosh, most of this time from October 4th was caring for Kawani, honestly, and trying to help her find her way back to a place of sanity. Right? I mean, we use these terms insane. I know that these have psychological terms, and I know that these have legal terms, and so I don't mean to in my own ignorance to what is happening here, I may need you to educate me on which words are acceptable to use and which words are not, and but I would say at this point in time most of the time that we spent together was trying to help to assist and do correct by Kawani to try to help her with the mental health, the severe mental health issues that she was suffering from.
Okay. So tell me in terms of timeline, you said that in October of 2020, that you spent 3 weeks in Virginia.
Yes.
And then where did y'all go after you left Virginia?
Back to Asheville, North Carolina.
And why Asheville?
That's where I lived. That's where Peggy lives. And it's another beautiful area.
Okay. And where did you all stay in Asheville?
I let them stay at my house.
Okay. So
in Candler.
All right.
41 Oakdale.
Okay.
And I let them stay there, and I stayed either in my van in the driveway, or at my parents'.
Okay.
Back and forth. I also stayed with my sister a little bit, but I didn't mind to open up my home to them at all. I let them stay there.
We've talked a lot about the three women and Z. During the entire time you knew them, was Hannah a part of that?
Yeah, she was there. She was there all the time. She was always around. There was never any point in time where Nimsi, as I will refer to her, there was never a point in time where Nimsi wasn't around.
Was Nimsi her Hebrew name that was
Yes.
given? Okay. May I approach the witness? Do you recognize what's depicted in States 86?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay. Is this the child that you spent time around?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna publish States 86. And you said that she was always around.
Yeah, she was.
How did they manage the care of Nimsi? Was everybody involved in that, or was it?
I would say it was more predominantly Kiwani.
Okay.
But the other girls definitely were there to support, and C definitely was there to support.
Okay, their tissues are there if you need them.
Yeah.
So, all these periods of time where you talked about weeks at a time spending with him and the women, was Nimsi a part of that too?
100%.
Okay.
That's my little friend right there. We grew a pretty significant bond together.
Okay. What do you mean by that? What was your relationship with her like?
I mean, she was like I say, she was my friend. You know, she would always wave and smile at me, and she would come to me and like allow me to hold her, you know, and she wasn't always like that with everyone.
Okay.
We were definitely, I was definitely pretty close with that baby, and all of the individuals in the group recognized that particularly the baby would go to me. But a lot of babies are like that. I'm like that with a lot of babies.
Okay.
Like, you know, I come from a large family. My dad has 5 siblings and my mother has 4. They all have children. All my aunts and uncles have children, except my dad's oldest brother. And so, you know, I'm the oldest on my mom's side. I have like 11 cousins.